It's me again. Today I'm going to do a little bit of a tutorial sort of thing, more like a rant. I'm not really qualified to do tutorials yet, but I'm getting there. This is more for me to look back on later, just to see, what I was thinking about. So I made something today called a music hierarchy, music production hierarchy, as you may, and this is kind of what I came up with vaguely in like a little drawing. Because I've been stuck a couple of times in my head, thinking I need to do this in mixing. I need these plugins. I need this mastering plugin, crazy ass thing. And it turns out you don't really need that specifically. You could for some creative elements, but this is what I was talking about. When making a song, I think the biggest thing to think about coming from a home producer. Obviously, if you're in a band, a different person does the mixing, different person does the mastering. Disregard this whole video if you do that. But if you're a home producer and you do all of it yourself, this is what I'd like to consider, at least for me. So when you record, it is the most important part of the process, and it's the fundamental basis of everything else. If you have a bad recording, a mix will not save it. If you have a bad mix, mastering will definitely not save it. So say you have a recording, right? And it's not a good recording. You got the vocals are all wrong. All the notes are wrong. The drums are not quantized right. And like the amps are just not well mic'd. It's going to be a weak recording, and everything else on top of that's not going to fix that. Mixing might, make it sound a little more professional, but that's not going to fix the fundamental, like, recording and how you play it. It's not going to fix a bad guitar take or a bad vocal take. So, yeah, it's going to topple over. You don't want a toppled over pyramid. That's not good design. I'm not an Egyptian either, so don't take that advice either. Let's go up the chain. You see, you got a bad mix, right? You're struggling with the EQs. You're struggling with the compression, and things are just not leveled correctly, and that shrinks. Mastering is not gonna fix that. Essentially, you could tweak a few things. You could lower some ranges in the EQ, but that's just gonna make other things dip down, and it's not gonna sound desirable to the ear. So yeah, I'd say these bottom two things on the pyramid are the most important for this top thing. Almost so that you don't need mastering. And a lot of people say that, I've heard. A lot of engineers say you don't need mastering if you have a good mix, a good recording. Not saying that mastering engineers don't do anything, because they do. They just do very subtle changes that, in my opinion, could be done in the mixing stage. This part is sort of mainly for me, because I recently got a new software, Logic Pro, when I originally used Ableton. But here's the thing, I love using Ableton for recording, and I love Logic for mixing. So I come to a little problem in my head. So what are these tasks that we're separating here? Because a lot of these home recording people, they like, including myself, like to mix recording, mixing, and mastering. So what do we do? Well, what do I do, at least, when it comes to tasks that I think belong in certain categories? So I made this little stupid-looking Venn diagram, which is not even complete. This is only a little picture of what each stage you can do, but this is a little thing that I came up with. So let's go through all these things. Recording, obviously recording the input source. I bolded that because that's the most important thing for all of it. If you have a bad recording for vocals or guitars or keys or piano, it's not going to sound good. And for home recording, I said tweaking instruments, as in like you can do EQs and you can do effects in the recording stage, in my opinion, if you work from home, because a lot of the time you don't have a sitar. So what you want to do is tweak your regular guitar to kind of sound like it by boosting some highs, taking out some lows. Same with sound design. Sound design is not exclusive to mixing, in my opinion. I think sound design's part of the process, especially if you work with EDM music and work with this electric music. Sound effects as well, and creative sampling kind of all falls in the same category. Vocals are an interesting thing for me because a lot of the time when you do a vocal take, for me, I'm not a good singer, so you have to do a lot of vocal tuning, and it's sometimes tricky when you have vocals with a bunch of effects on it and you want to just save the vocal tuning to the mixing stage, because then it's like you can't melodyne vocal effect. It's just going to sound weird with weird artifacts. So I put vocal tuning in the middle because a lot of times I like to kind of save vocal effects for mixing anyways. But if I don't want to do that, say I like the Ableton stock, effects or whatever, I might keep this in the recording stage and I just do all the effects there and I just bring it over to mixing. And as you can see, these things that you do, it slowly gets less and less as it goes on. Obviously, there's a lot of things you can do with mixing and mastering apart from it, but if you get this right, you can do less in the next stage. Mixing, obviously, you do EQ, compression levels, aux effects. That's pretty standard for mixing, at least I think, what I've learned over time. And these last things for mastering, I think, in my opinion, except for limiting, because nowadays you want your music to be loud, are not important. Because if you do compression right and mixing a master bus compressor, it'll glue it. It'll sound good glue, but some of it you don't even need. Sometimes you don't even need gluing. Same with subtle EQ. You don't need EQing a lot of the time if you do EQ and mixing. So yeah, I think this is almost like a horizontal view of what I had up here, of this pyramid. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of rant about this today just because it's been on my mind, and I like making these YouTube video kind of tutorial things. So yeah, thanks for watching.